Hello, uh, welcome to our eighth Equator College webinar. So, a design conversation with our very own alumni today. So, thank you for joining us this evening. I hope this session will inspire all of you once again. So, with us this evening, we have Evan, an alumni graduated with diploma in interior architectural design. So, it is an honor to have you with us, Evan. So, can you further introduce yourself to the audience?
Oh, sure, I will. First of all, my pleasure to be here today, and thank you for the invitation. I don't think there's much. I always tell people that I don't think there's much to say about myself, but just as a brief introduction, I'm a practicing interior designer since I graduated from in Equator. I've been practicing for about 12 years now, in both in Malaysia and in the UK. I've generally worked in commercial spaces, residential, corporate, all sorts of interior projects, thankfully around the world. And I got my master's just recently in interior design from London about 2.5 years ago. And I currently run my own company, and it goes by the name of ARC.
All right.
Yeah, so that's it.
It's very, very interesting. So it's not something that you have nothing to talk about also. So how have you been? So you were back from UK recently, right? So
Yeah.
what do you do in UK?
So as I explained earlier on, I started out in the UK doing my master's for the first year, and then for about 2 years or so, I was privileged to be able to get a job there, and then had the opportunity to work on all sorts of projects there. And then due to COVID, the stay in the UK had to be cut short. My wife and I, we decided to make the decision to come back, and not look for another job there because we feel it's quite dangerous there. So that's why we are now back here with our own company.
All right, good, good, good.
Yeah.
I think welcome back to Malaysia,
Oh, thank you.
especially
Thank
welcome
you.
back to Penang. So
Thank you.
so since you have the opportunity to work in UK and also in Malaysia, so do you think are there much differences in terms of design style between Malaysia and UK?
Mm, in terms of design style, it's not really that different, I would say. It's different in the sense that the distance that each style can go is very different, mainly due to the difference in currency. Because someone with a 3,000 ringgit pay grade here would have the same amount of money every month in pounds. So therefore, their spending power is much higher than compared to Malaysia. So the things that they get to explore when it comes to interior is a bit more, because whatever they pay, every dollar they pay, it's 5 times more than what our ringgit is worth here. So in terms of exploring and being a bit more experimental, is people tend to have more opportunities to be more experimental there because of the strength of the pound there. But generally, design style wise, there is a difference, but I don't think that Malaysia is very far behind in terms of mentality. But I think Malaysia is kind of a bit behind, mainly because of the difference in currency.
All right, great, great, great.
Yeah.
So now you are back in Penang with ARC. So
Yep.
what is your plan next?
My plan, get lots of jobs lah.
Oh,
Yeah. So thankfully, we've been blessed with people who are very supportive, who knew that I came back, and then almost immediately, they got in touch with me or someone from the team to express their interest in renovating their home. So currently, the projects we have on board are mainly residential projects, and so we plan to grow the business, scale the business, and hopefully let the team grow as well. So it doesn't just rely on me alone.
all right. It's really interesting that um, you decided to bring your own agencies to come back to Penang, right? So Being the founder of ARC, how do you see your new studio will grow in Penang?
Mm, I would think there will be a slight correction to your question in a sense that I think we intend to grow globally. So we do have people on board that is not from this country here. So especially with this whole work from home situation that everyone is sort of facing, there's really there's no rule saying that everyone from the team needs to be physically present together to get things done. So yeah, so to answer that, we would. I forgot what your question was already. I spoke. I answered too long, and then yeah. So I hope I answered your question along the way.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned that in ARC there are team members who are not from around here, right? So
Yep.
where how many members do you have in your team?
So full timers we have three, in fact 3.5, and then people on standby about 10 to 15 people.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
very interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, I think staying in Penang and do global works is it's an ideal thing to do. It's really uh, ideal in a way that you are able to just stay back over here, relax in Penang, and you are able to do jobs from overseas, right?
yep.
Yeah, so interior design here has garnered a number of demand over the years. Do you see this as a positive side in the interior design market, and how?
Definitely. I think no, no, it would be odd to say it's not a good thing. Or the more people who appreciate what we do, it means the more business we have, and therefore you also see that the supply in interior designers here is also slowly getting higher and higher. So everyone wants to call themselves an interior designer now, whether they have qualifications or not. Um, with no disrespect to them, I think some of them are doing great jobs out there. But obviously, the downside is that there are some people who know a bit, and also call themselves interior designers, who sort of give some people the impression that interior designers don't know what they're talking about. So I think that is so there are positives to that. The positive is the more people appreciate what we do, the more business we have. But the downside is that a lot of people would want a bite of this cake. So it's going to be very saturated. And I think now it's a good time to be an interior designer because a lot of people are spending a lot of time at home. So it's not bad to be in this industry, to be honest.
Yeah, I think nowadays I have noticed that certain property developers uh, did did build houses with interior design that comes with the unit, right?
Yep, yep.
Yeah,
A lot, a lot of them.
yeah. I think now it has been a trend. If you buy a house, they will ask you, your unit. What do you prefer? Tiles and stuff like that.
Mm, yeah.
So, is there a preference for you when it comes to residential and commercial space? Which one do you think you like to do the most?
Mm, it's a tricky one. It's a good question. It would be extremely difficult to pick one, mainly because both of them have different attractive things about them, respectively. Um, with residential projects, you get to be a bit more personal. Of course, clients tend to be a bit more fussy as well, but that means that the project is extremely personal to them, and that I find is very interesting because you get to craft every interior based on the client's personality. But when it comes to commercial projects, you get to sometimes disregard some practical aspects and to lean more towards the creative part of designing. because it's meant to be there for maybe a few years. If not, it's not meant to be. Most commercial projects are not meant to stay there for like 20, 30 years like a home. So therefore, they are more experimental in the sense that the clients are willing to go for more um, not commonly practiced approaches when it comes to transforming a space. So I can't answer your question. I like both. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I think some they prefer commercial space because you get to play more, your space are bigger, and some they prefer residential because they get to design something that people are able to live in, you know. So how do you think that innovation strategy help your business?
What could you just help
Yeah,
clarify
how
a bit what you mean by innovation
okay, for
strategy?
for example, do you think of any other ways, instead of just servicing your clients in the interior side, do you include, let's say, for example, do you include furniture in your design? Because I've seen that a lots of interior design over here, they design it very nice, with all the furniture in the space, but when the project is done, the furniture is not there, so it looks kind of different. So and some people, they would have certain certain innovated ideas to get their clients to work with you.
Mhm.
So how do you think this helps you in your business?
Okay, so to address what you said earlier on about a lot of designers renovating a home and then after that they just leave it blank. Part I think that's partly due to the fact that some clients prefer to get their own projects because they don't want the designer to earn everything, or to get charge a premium for every single thing. But obviously, the downside is sometimes the clients don't have the expertise to actually dress up the place themselves. They may see each piece as very nice pieces, but then they don't know if they would actually go well with everything else or whether they fit in the space or not. So I in the ideal world, if an ID gets to take charge from day one till the very end, that would be the best because the client can just move in with their bags and then just live there already and not do anything else. But that that doesn't happen sometimes, I guess, due to budget restrictions or other reasons.
Yeah, I think that's also one of the reasons, right? So like when we talked about uh interior design, for example, most of the time it's for residential,
Mhm,
and I find that there is a new trend that comes up, that
mhm,
people has been always talking about. Oh, I want this Scandinavian style, or I want this industrial style, so is the style, is style one of the important factors when you have your clients, or
mhm,
does the style actually uh, bring that identity and the characteristics of the client himself
mhm,
or herself, and to the design that you did?
mhm. I think it's the priority should remain with portraying the client's personalities through your design. So then at the end of the day, they can call it their home and not the designer's home.
Yeah,
So designing a showroom is very different from designing a home to live in. It's not just about the looks; it's about how it works every single day. So, and in a lot of cases, many designers tend to impose their ideas and views on how things should be. It's not to say it's completely wrong. Sometimes they know because of experience, they know a bit better than the clients because most of the time clients are not from this industry. So sometimes the designer is right, but I think there should be a balance between um, pushing our own ideas as designers and to take on board the client's input as a homeowner when it comes to designing.
All right. Yeah, I think that's the way it should be, right? Like, I think I have heard that some clients they have a fight with the designers because things doesn't work out, and things like that. Yeah, I think as a designers, it's our responsibility to look at what the clients really actually needs. So you were a student in Equator before, right? So how was your experience here in Equator the
Oh,
last time?
actually, I think you should ask Equator how was their experience with me because I was a very naughty boy back then. And Miss Tan, I could tell that she was like trying to do all she can to be patient with me. So, in fact, I was asked this question just a few days ago, like what was my experience like being a student in Equator and what could be have been better. So my very honest answer was Equator did everything they could to the best they can um, within reason because we all know that Equator doesn't charge the highest fees when you compare to other competitors in the market. So my opinion is that you can see that Equator, or at least during my time, Equator was doing all it could to accommodate whatever was necessary to ensure the students' growth. So I was pretty happy, and it I'm extremely thankful because if not for Equator, there wouldn't be me today. So I'm extremely thankful for Equator.
All right, interesting. So,
Yeah.
like yourself, as a student from Equator before, let's say, for example, if you would wanted to hire a fresh graduate from
Mm.
Equator, what are the quality that you actually look for?
Um, Before we talk about skill and experience, etc., I think what matters most is the attitude and ethics of a person. So we would rather hire someone that is less skillful but has a better attitude, someone who is hungry, someone who wants to learn, someone who knows how to compromise, someone who knows how to work with a team, as opposed to someone who is extremely skillful but extremely arrogant. Everything you try to share or teach, they say they know, but then they make a lot of mistakes and then they refuse to admit that it's their fault. So I think ethics and character have to be up there before we even consider hiring someone.
Yeah, so yeah, that's true. I think a lots of companies has been changing their mind and looking at the ethics side. So, what about skills? What kind of
Okay.
skill sets that you think will fit in your
So,
team?
okay, in my team, wow,
Yeah.
someone who can let me just sit in bed all day, don't have to do anything, just sign check every day. Ideally, someone who is able to come up with a solution prior to bringing a problem to me. So that's how the rest of the team works at present. So everyone on the team knows that whenever we have a problem, we don't just go to someone and say how. It's like we go to someone else saying, this is the problem. I think this could be the solution. What do you think? So we need people who are able to help us solve problems and not people who can just give us problems and expect us to solve it for them. Sometimes they may not be able to do so because of their lack of experience. We can understand that, but we have to at least see the attempt to come up with a solution whenever there's a problem. So I think that is one very important quality for anyone we want to hire as well.
All right, interesting. So
Yeah.
now, in this pandemic, we have been experiencing a lots of changes in the way business are operating. People started to realize that uh, they actually do not need office spaces, which means that they can actually work from home. You know, so how do you see the drastic change in the way your works is operating now?
I think it just forces everyone to be a bit more careful, and then we will think twice whether we want to meet someone or not. I guess I don't speak for everyone, but I speak for just myself and the rest of my colleagues. We tend to think whether it's necessary to meet or not, or when we meet, what is how can we meet in a way that is safest for us, and if we think that it's too much of a risk, then we will just compromise and then meet online. And at the end of the day, the toughest part was to convince ourselves that we could get as much done online compared to the amount of work or the amount of productivity we will be able to get out of a physical meeting. So I think the toughest part is to convince ourselves to just go online and try to see how much we can get out of every meeting. So I think that has been the primary change for us. So we don't, in our industry, we are required to meet a lot of people. We are required to have factory visits, workshop visits, supplier visits, etc. So now we we have to sort of filter, and then if it's not necessary to meet, and if there's like a portfolio that they can show online or show us through Zoom or Skype, then we will usually opt for that option.
All right. Will this actually affected your operation? Like would this slow down, or it or some people would say that working from home is more efficient than working in the office. So
Yeah.
how would you see this?
I do agree for most people, and I do agree with the work from home approach. But we have to be careful because there are people who have the discipline to work from home, but some people don't. They need that discipline of going in at 9 and then leaving at 6. Then they can be productive. So I don't think there is a one size fits all, but I do see benefits in both approaches. On for our team, all of us work from home from day one. All of us as directors, we decided that we will not have an office. We don't see the need for, at least for now or in the near future, we don't see the need for an office. So whatever we do, we we do it remotely, and it's nice. It's like you don't have to dress up properly for every meeting. You don't have to do everything else, get ready, get in the car, drive out, and things like that. And you can even put on your boxers or shorts like during a formal meeting, and no one would know. So I think it's very beneficial in many ways. But one just needs to have the discipline to operate from home.
Yeah, I think that's the best where you can actually have your meeting with people from far away, right? From far away, different countries, different time zone, right? So back to interior design. So
Mm.
interior design is definitely not just a space that is designed to look beautiful. So what is the state of people's knowledge and understanding towards interior design today?
When you talk about people, are you saying the general public or us as designers?
The general public.
General public. I think now it's slightly different than what it was before. Last time, maybe say 15, 20 years ago, interior design used to be a luxury
Yep.
where people get an interior designer only if they want their house to look nice, etc. And now that it's such a interior design is such a common thing, more and more people are seeing the importance of hiring a designer to solve practical issues more than aesthetical issues. Most of the time, you will get people coming saying, "Oh, my space is this small, but I really want to do this much in this space, but I don't know how to." You rarely hear people coming in and say, "Oh, I want my house to look nice," and da 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 da. I mean, I'm not saying that people like that don't exist, but I'm saying we see more and more people leaning towards the former, where they prefer they need an interior designer's input to provide practical solutions rather than artistic and aesthetical solutions.
Yeah, I think when it talks about interior designers' input to the clients, can you explain more about what kind of input that normally an interior designers will give to the client?
Oh, other interior designers or me?
You. Okay.
Me, I think all we need to always prioritize what the end goal is and where they aspire. I mean, how they aspire the place to be like, and how they intend to use the space. I think that comes above everything else, because without knowing the why, without knowing why they're doing this, why they're approaching an interior designer in the first place, you can't really answer with a how. So that's why a lot of people come up with all sorts of weird solutions that don't actually fit the clients in the end. So I think finding out people, yeah, I think we need to find out why the clients approach us in the first place, and then it's our responsibility to extract the information from them, even if they appear that like they don't know. It's our job to sort of interrogate them and get as much information as possible, so then sort of makes it a bit easier for us to design, rather than us trying to guess what they want and then uh, doing something that doesn't fit them completely, or not what they want, but it's just something they didn't say. So we try to avoid scenarios where we allow the client to say, yeah, do whatever you want, because most of the time that fires back, and it's a waste of resource and time.
Yeah, I think the most dangerous clients are the clients who say do what you want, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Because at
yeah,
the end of the
exactly.
day, everything that you do is not what they want.
Yeah, exactly. And you get those some people, you give this, they say do whatever you want. You give them things, and then they say one my, and then you ask, look, I hami. They say chin chai, what the chin chai, and then you give chin chai, and then they say my again, and that's just a nightmare, to be honest.
Yeah. So so what are the biggest challenges in the things that you do
Biggest challenges.
apart from meeting clients like that?
Um, Clients, okay lah. Thankfully the clients I meet are all very nice, so I'm blessed in the sense I don't meet difficult clients most of the time. But other challenges, knowing when to say you can't take on more jobs. I think it's the same for everyone in any industry. It's knowing where your limit is. We I guess most people would be inclined to say, yes, we can do it for you. Let me do it for you, without actually knowing whether they can still take on the job or not. So I think sometimes we still struggle with that, um, but we do make plans. Now we have measures put in place to prevent us from getting into scenarios like that. We know our resources very well, and we know how to use our resources well. And other challenges, I guess, would be people. Contractors but I think good contractors are particularly hard to find nowadays, and I guess it just has to do with the fact that the there's this difference in mentality when it comes to people of different generations. Those who are elder, generally they have that sense of pride when they do something well, but for the younger generation, a lot, I don't say, I'm not saying everyone is like that, but based on experience, my experience with younger contractors, they tend to have that hit and run approach, where they want this amount of money for in a very short period of time, and then they're done with it. And then when you try to get them back, they usually have all sorts of excuse to show up and to rectify whatever issues that they have caused. So I think for this industry in particular, the probably the biggest challenge is reliable contractors.
All right. Being said that, how do you actually filter your contractor?
I guess a portfolio helps,
Yeah.
and we try to see how they through the way they speak, we are able to gauge their attitude towards things, their responses to our answers, so their responses to our questions. Some, they are all talk, but then they cannot. They talk more than they can actually do. You can sense that through conversations, workshops, the attitude of the workers within the workshops, the level of the quality of their work when a product is not finished. We have this rule saying that if something is well built, the contractor wouldn't be afraid of someone going to see it even before its completion. Some people they are able to finish something nice, but then when you actually tear apart what's on the facade, everything inside is actually poorly done. So we tend to pay more attention to, give more attention to those contractors are able to who are proud of every single stage of what they're doing, from whether it's like mid stage or the initial stage or the final stages of construction.
Yeah, I think you guys you guys face a lot of these kind of problems, especially when you do interior design. There's not only one contractor that you are gonna engage with, right? You have the carpenter people, you have the electrician people,
Yeah.
you have all sort of this. So how do you overcome these challenges? You must be having a lot of headaches when you have all these challenges that comes to you. So how do you overcome them?
Yeah, first of all, yes, it is quite challenging sometimes because things often happen, and things that are not your fault often happen, and you get the blame for it because we are the ones who are sort of like the main contractor taking care of the project. So the way we deal with it is we try to lay out our terms upfront with the contractors, try to be as strict as possible. Um, Most of the time, the threat of deduction in their final bill seems to work very, very well. But still, sometimes you can also understand the bosses find it hard to control, like say maybe 5, 6 workers, and all you need is one worker who doesn't cooperate, and then everyone else has to suffer. We try to, I guess, we make we make we try to make more site visits, so then the contractors know that we can just come anytime and they cannot have any funny business while we're not there, because they don't know when we're going. So that definitely helps as well. And sometimes if they are so stubborn, they don't listen, then unfortunately we have to raise our voices, and it's not a nice thing to do, but sometimes that's the only language that they understand.
All right. That's very interesting on how you manage all these things, right? So now, technology has become more and more advanced. Like even for interior design, there are smart home, coming up and all these things. So, is the convergence of technologies and art important in your respective industry development?
Yeah, definitely. I think knowing what the latest tech is helps us do our jobs better, faster. So faster, it doesn't really mean that we will have more time. It just means that we have to finish what we have to do in less time.
Yeah.
And so that's people always say, oh, like once we have this, we will have more time. But usually it's the opposite. We are just expected to deliver faster. So yes, we welcome. I think everyone should welcome technology. Welcome tech. How do you put this? Technology into whatever industry they are in, because it's there for a reason. It's meant to solve problems that we couldn't solve before, or meant to sort of make things a bit easier in some scenarios. So it is fairly important. We also make sure that we are constantly up to date with what's happening and what the top designers in the industry are using, etc. But having said that, we do cherish old school methods like sketching and just generally doing things the old school way, because sometimes the danger of relying just on technology alone removes that sense of tactility where you get to touch and feel things. Last time people used to print out drawings and draw on them, sketch on them. Now everything is shown on the screen. But generally, I still practice printing them out because I believe when you actually print them out, you see so much more than you do on the screen. But I guess that's mainly because most of us spend most of our time looking at screens, and we are sort of blinded in some sense. We don't see certain things. We don't see simple measurement errors. We don't see simple typos and things like that. But once you print it out, you're looking at it from a fresh perspective, more like it feels like a fresh pair of eyes is looking at what you've done. So we do welcome technology into our industry, but we do think that certain old school approaches need to be still in practice.
Yeah, when we talks about this, I think the world has changed over time. But how do you see or expect the way interior design business will be in the near future?
I think the main change would be more and more people would want interior designers. I think primarily for homes, because I guess most of us kind of have come to terms to the fact that we would be spending a lot of time at home already, whether we like it or not, thanks to the current situation. Whether the pandemic will actually go away or not, none of us know. So I think that's probably one of the first changes. We will see a huge shift from the commercial demand to residential demand. And then obviously with that also comes more people who want to be interior designers, but it also poses a threat to us as interior designers in some sense that people who are very tech savvy, or people who have the skill sets to develop applications to help people who cannot hire designers, I think they will come up with some solutions for everyday people, which I think is also a good thing, because then it makes interior design more approachable, and it's not so much of a luxury sort of or a privileged sort of service. So I think that's probably the main change we will see in the near future.
Yeah, I think it's true, but still, people would need interior designers to give, uh, how to say, to give comments and feedbacks and advices, right? Because even today, you have phone, mobile application that allows you to do measurement, to capture measurements on the space that you have, and it will generate a floor plan for you, right? So yeah, so I think this is something that it's really interesting to look at when people has been talking about uh, in what artificial intelligence is taking over human jobs in the near future. But I think whatever things that is organic, it's something that you can't. It's something that the machine can't imitate, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like for example, when you talks about ideas, when you generate ideas, when you give feedbacks, that focuses on tailor-made requirement. So it's something that the machine won't take over, right?
Hmm.
So, uh, what is your best advice to the audience out there who are interested in becoming the next successful interior designer?
Oh, tough one. Best advice. I guess it'll probably be the same as what I said before. And this applies to anyone in any industry. I think having good ethics should probably be in the top three, and I think that comes before anything else, because everyone is getting smarter, everyone is getting more skillful, but we are not hearing. It's not the same for ethics. We are not hearing news about this world getting better. In fact, it's actually going the other way. So I think generally having good ethics would really be a factor, regardless of what industry you're in. Uh, and a lot of employers would see that as a primary requirement. Um, and not something that's just stated on paper. They have to actually see it in person as well, because you can fake all you want on your resume and CV, but fake uh, you cannot fake it long term. It's like 1 or 2 days, 1 week maybe, yes, but eventually your true colors will show if once you start to work with someone. So I would think the best advice I would give is focus more on ethics and be kind to each other. And if you want to be selfish for the right reasons. Be selfish for um, reasons such as kindness and love. Don't be selfish for no reason. Some people, I mean, one example is some. I'm sure all of us have come across people on the road where it's a traffic jam and you want to come out from a junction and then they just refuse to let you come out.
Yes.
But then even by refusing, you know, by not letting you out, they cannot really move any further. They're
Exactly.
just literally half a step in front of you, but they just don't want to let you pass just
Mm.
because they're selfish. But then you have to start to ask, like, what's the point? What was the point of doing all that? It doesn't make you a better person. It makes me upset because it's like it's sad to see things like that. But on the contrary, if that person just allows someone else to come out of a junction, the person who gets the opportunity to be kind to someone else, and the person who gets to come out from that junction feels happy, and by default that person would also quite likely be kind to another person as well, and one way or another that's going to come back one circle and help the person who was kind in the first place. So I think ethics and kindness play a very big role in not just our careers, but also everything we do.
Yeah, exactly. So I learned that you are also a professional musician, right?
Okay lah, for fun lah, not really pro, but it's
So you are
something
the
I do for
rock star type, right? So
fun.
and
Yeah,
and
I think so. If
and
you
you
want
also
to
have
say that.
and you also have a YouTube channel
Yeah,
that's called Pick My Brains TV,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
do you mind to elaborate more about your musician side of you?
Okay. Well, it's more of a hobby. Everyone knows that it's very difficult to make a living being a musician. So thankfully, my mom stopped me from taking music. I mean, like, I hope this doesn't discourage anyone from taking music seriously. But in my case, I took interior design, and then music had to take the back seat. And then I think it was about 2 years ago when I started to pick up the guitar again. And then, in fact, it was this whole pandemic. In fact, it was this MCO that enabled me to really do more of what I always wanted to do. There was nothing else for me to do except for music. And it was probably one of the best times ever for me because I never in my life I got to spend this much time producing music, interviewing artists, which some of them I looked up to since I was a teenager, and so yeah, so it's something I do for fun. It's something I still try to do every day, and when I don't get to do it, I get very stressed. So it's something I do to sort of keep my life a bit more balanced because all of us on the team we work very very hard. We work longer hours than anyone else, but we try to encourage every one of ourselves to have time for what makes us happy, and music is one of the things that I find makes me happy, and that's why I'm doing it.
Right. That's
Yeah.
really good. I mean, would you say that this hobby actually give you more inspiring ideas for your interior design?
I think it does help because thankfully it's also music is also art, and then interior design is also a form of art. Occasionally we get ideas, when I write a song, then that somehow contributes to conceptually to something I'm doing on a real life project, whether it has to do with the poetry or some practical aspects or whatever, because it's not just like what I do musically. It's not just play the guitar at home. I actually record, I actually mix the tracks, and then we actually shoot music videos and release them to the public. And so doing all that also helps us learn how to manage different scenarios. We so doing being in interior design, we know how to manage construction projects, but then producing and launching a song to a fixed time deadline requires a different set of skills altogether. And then one way or another, that would somehow contribute to upgrading us when it comes to our full-time jobs.
All right, interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So I think let's ask the audience if they have questions for you.
Okay. All right.
Right. So you can actually send in questions on the Facebook comment area, and Evan will try his best to answer your questions.
Okay. Oh, I
Right.
actually see one. It's by Abi.
Yeah. Yep. So what made you decide to study interior design?
Funny story, I don't know. Because I didn't intend to study interior design. I had zero talent in drawing. In fact, I still have minimal talent in sketching or drawing now after so many years. I always wanted to study business, and then in the very last week before I had to make a decision, I was at Pisa for an education fair. I was like, oh, there's something called interior design. Okay, let me try. And then now I'm stuck with it already. So, yeah, so I don't know. Nothing made me want to study interior design. It was just something I came across, and then I just went for it. And thankfully, I learned to love this job.
All right. So it's good that you walk past Equator's booth.
Yeah, very thankful for that, actually.
Okay. So any other questions that the audience want to ask Evan? Right. I think one of the questions is when it comes to colors, right?
Mhm.
So I think colors is one of the most is one of the hardest things to choose for your clients. So how do you determine the types of colors that you want to choose for your clients?
Mm. I guess one thing that dictates everything else is their preference primarily. Some clients they come in straight and tell you, I don't like blue. I hate blue. Blue is the worst color. So that is one of the indications. Their preference is one of the guidelines that we use. And then after that, it comes back to the purpose of the room. uh, when I was in Equator, I think you probably still do it now. We learn about how colors dictate our mood, and what colors mean, and how colors make you feel visually, mentally, and emotionally. I think having all that knowledge enables us to decide what sort of color we should be picking for the clients depending on their intention for the space.
Yep, that's good. That's interesting. Very insightful. Right. Uh, we have the next questions. So from Teng An, in terms of budget wise, what is the cost range for renovating a residential area of 1K
Square
square
feet.
square feet, right?
Okay. Well, I think it really depends. It could be very minimal. It could be a massive budget. So I think it really depends on the clients. Uh, the affordability. So it's a bit hard to answer that question without any context. So let's assume. I think budget-wise for usually for people who just got married, I would think based on experience, it's usually under 100,000. And then anyone who goes above that is usually someone who has worked for a bit longer and have maybe hold higher positions in their jobs. So I guess I can only assume he's asking for general people. So I guess generally speaking, I think it's like 50,000 plus minus. I think it's sort of like a good sort of benchmark or ballpark.
Okay. So another one is, how do you design a small space?
I think like any other space, the space gives you information already. Even if it's so, this applies to a small space, a large space, or a tricky space with tons of challenges and odd corners and odd shapes. The space, one way or another, the space informs you of how it wants to be designed already, and then use it as a guideline because there are so many things to consider, like the purpose of the space, the climate, depending on the country you're in, whether you have to consider 4 seasons or not, different times of the year, the sun comes at different directions. So those are factors that already by default help you or somehow give you some kind of indication of what you should be looking at in terms of design direction. So I always, yeah, in fact, it's one of my lecturers at uni who taught me this, saying the space usually informs you of how it wants to be designed already the moment you step there.
All right. Okay, this is the next question is very interesting questions. I think this is something that interior designer could think of, could look at it of branching out. Is I think I'll put it in a proper way. Is that, do you think that interior designer can also design a background for a game or environment for a game?
Yes, definitely. I think if one person has the skill sets to design all the to generate all the graphics required for a game, I think being an interior designer helps because you understand, uh, you have a sense of space and you know how big things should be, unless you are doing some kind of fantasy thing where things don't have the proportion of things don't have to make any sense at all. But if you're talking about game, it's like Sims or SimCity or whatever games that require some level of realism when it comes to scale. I think being an interior designer definitely helps because you understand all that in real life. So it's just a matter of um, how do you say, putting all your knowledge into all that computer generated graphics.
Okay. Okay. The next question is from Dr. Alia. As
Oh,
a
hi,
designer,
Alia.
yeah, I think Dr. Alia said hi to you earlier.
Yeah, hi back.
So, as a designer, what is your view of using synthetic materials as we move towards environmental sustainability?
Okay, so since it's Alia, I have to say this inside joke. I have to say hiya first. Okay, so it's something I have with Alia. So to answer that question, don't care about the environment, just do whatever you want. I'm joking. I'm joking. I think synthetic materials play an important role in terms of the sustainability of our planet because, but it also depends how those synthetic things are made because sometimes it damages the planet more to make those materials, even though they last longer in the long run. But then, if you consider their lifespan, etc., and if you really zoom in, sometimes it's more harmful to the environment. So I think how those materials are made is very important, and if they are made the right way, taking uh, a tons of things into consideration. I mean, a tons of things meaning uh, the calculations were based on or how do we put it? Um, the formula was done to save the planet in the long run, and all the calculation was done beforehand. I think if that is done right, then I'm all for synthetic materials. Though I'm a fan of wood, I try to use recycled wood as much as I can. I try to upcycle as much as I can, or try to save whatever I can wherever and whenever. So yes, I think synthetic materials are good. But they have to be done the right way. Like, there's that argument between having a nuclear generated power versus solar power. But what people don't realize is it's actually harmful to produce those panels, harmful for our environment to produce those panels. And then a lot argue and say that their lifespan, their lifespan don't justify, the cost of producing them in terms of uh, costing the environment, not from a money point of view. So I think if those calculations were done right, then yes, I'm all for synthetic materials.
All right. So interesting. So I think that's all that we have. Uh, the questions that we have. So again, thank you, Evan, for making your time.
A pleasure.
Oh wait. So we have one last one.
Oh yeah, sure.
So the question is, what's the most important factor in designing a room?
Most important factor, how much money the client has. Again, I'm joking. Again, I always question every decision you make. This doesn't just apply to designing interior design, but design this applies to every decision we make in life, and also in designing as well. Question every single decision of yours. Why are you making this decision? Is it for yourself? Is it for the client? What are your motivations for making that decision? I think knowing how to question your decisions is a very important part of growing as a person and also as a designer.
Okay. Okay. We have one more questions.
Yep.
What is the
Sure.
next design style?
Sorry.
What is the next design style?
Wow. Let me bring my crystal ball and like
Yeah,
try to predict the
predicting
future.
predicting the future now.
Um, I I think style wise, I'm trying to gauge what is the right answer for the question. Design style, I'm not sure if it's aesthetically or anything. So I think when it comes to taste, I think everyone's taste will mostly, especially in Malaysia, follow the trend. But some people who are hardcore um, classical admirers, they will still stick with that sort of style, etc. And same with people who like contemporary designs, they will still stick with that. So that's the aesthetic aspect. From a practical aspect, I think probably a lot of people will start to consider the whole work from home trend, the social distancing trend. So I think that will play a big role in uh, in terms of style, in determining what the next style would be. So I can't say what the next style would be, but then I can say I think this whole pandemic will sort of guide everyone towards a new style, whether it's social distancing, all the guidelines that were relevant in the past may not be relevant now because of social distancing requirements, etc., and obviously because of the pandemic.
Okay, so
Yeah,
I think that is very interesting. So thank you again for your time. Thank you for
you're most
spending the
welcome
evening with
anytime.
us. All right. So same thing. We will see all of you again in the next webinar. So thank you and good night.
All right, bye everyone.